From Dusk Till Dawn is not only written by, but co-stars the one and only Quentin Tarantino. And I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, but find it hard to justify it as good. There are positives here. There are things to appreciate. The film lends itself very well to director Robert Rodriguez's strengths, and it has some serious B-movie charm, like the stuff you'll find in Tarantino's and Rodriguez's Grindhouse Project, or maybe Evil Dead 2. That said, those movies are a lot more upfront about what kind of flick you're in for, and From Dusk Till Dawn has one of, if not the greatest tonal 180 that I've ever experienced. And that was kind of jarring, even though it's bold and exciting. This turning of events really undercuts the entire first half of the movie. Also, not since Andrew Niccol tried to convince me that Nick Cage and Jared Leto possibly could have come from the same parents. Not since then have I encountered a brother duo so unsimilar physically to one another. Fun movie. And if you like schlocky B flicks, then don't look up anything about this movie before you watch it. But you might enjoy it. I'm going to quote the consensus on Trumbo because I can't think of a better way to describe this than as a History Channel original movie with big name actors. And Cranston does a pretty good job. And there's some neat nuggets for fans of classic cinema, but otherwise the movie is pretty mediocre. And Trumbo is going to get a 5. The Sum of All Fears. Don't watch this movie. It's not good. And under basic critical analysis, I mean, this thing just falls to pieces. The dialogue feels cheap. Like they had two screenplays side by side, and they went with the no-name knockoff discount brand screenplay. Ben Affleck feels like a dweeb. There are a lot of flat-out dumb moments. And this movie bored me practically to tears. I mean, take like some dumb popcorn Michael Bay movie. At least that knows what it is. It knows what its audience wants. The Sum of All Fears does not know what its audience wants. It does not fully understand what movie it is. And it either needed to buckle down and become a serious drama, or throw in some car chases and hot babes. Please. I don't watch every movie that comes out every year. If there's a movie that I don't think I'll appreciate unless I have a specific interest in it, probably not going to see it. But Tomorrowland is giving Kingsman a run for its money as the worst movie from 2015 that I have seen. Let's start with the fact that this movie panders to children so much that it insults the intelligence of anyone over maybe the age of 8, and the conflict it presents is so dumbed down. So dumbed down. There are some things to appreciate visually about this movie. The effects they show in the trailer with the pin, I mean, it's easy to see how they pulled that off, but I thought it looked kind of neat. However, the CGI in this movie, it's not good. We've developed to a point where I don't think we're going to see Spy Kids 3 depths of CGI outside of Asylum flicks, but there were moments in Tomorrowland that were taken aback. 8 or 9 years. The female lead, Robertson, probably a great person, but after seeing her in this movie, I don't know if I want to see her in movies. Her character is written as this entitled, arrogant type, which works and can be fun as long as the talent brings along 4 doses of raw charisma that Robertson just doesn't have, and it doesn't help that throughout the entire movie it's insisting that she is the greatest, the smartest, the only person that can save the world. And there's nothing to back that up outside that she one time flew a remote control helicopter into a government facility and got caught. Also, George Clooney. In this movie and in From Dusk Till Dawn, just looks like he's not satisfied with the way this piece of garbage is going. So yeah, Tomorrowland. Pretentious, childish, overdone. 3 out of 10. But it ain't over. Because after Tomorrowland, I treated myself to Tommy Boy. Now, let's be clear. I didn't expect to love Tommy Boy. This watch was more of a obligation given how frequently the movie's referenced and how many people love this movie. I mean, you gotta know Tommy Boy. And I laughed. A few times. This scene, this is funny. That's funny, right? But the movie feels like it was written by somebody who's just filling in slots. I mean, here is the romantic interest. Here is the thing that sparks the plot. Here is the character arc. And worse yet is the movie's approach to comedy, which generally consists of presenting things that are funny. For example, Chris Farley is fat. Being fat is funny. This movie is a mess. And if you love that mess, that's okay. But I kind of wish this movie hadn't happened. I wish this movie hadn't happened to me. And at this point in the binge this week, I mean, after my guilty enjoyment of From Dusk Till Dawn, my indifference toward Trumbo, my dissatisfaction with The Sum of All Fears, my near hate of Tomorrowland, and my disgust with Tommy Boy, there was only one way to finish this week out right. And I knew that it was time to watch The Room. Which, most everything to be said about The Room has already been said, so I'll be brief. This movie is incoherent. It's terrible. But what I love about The Room is that it's of a high enough technical standard that if you were dropped at a random point throughout the film, it would probably take you 2 or 3 minutes to ask, what the frick frack is going on? And that's a sign of a true, so bad it's great movie in my book. I personally don't find terrible camera choreography, bad lighting, and poor audio recording funny. Like Birdemic, it's funny when it's over, but watching that thing is painful. The technical side of The Room, on the other hand, is the film's strongest suit, and that makes it watchable as long as you're prepared for this kind of movie. So it's funny, it's enjoyable, but keep in mind this is still one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And those are the movies that I watched this week. The binge goes on. The binge goes on. It goes on. But for now, I'm afraid this is